capacity.
Yes. And I'm telling you, like, I think we even do that to our own selves.
At some points, I'm sure that we have the ability to kind of make ourselves feel less or not have as much confidence within ourselves. Um,
Yes.
but I think for as far as bullying, more times than not, it's a direct effect of someone else making someone else feel like they aren't enough or smaller than or feeling bad about something within themselves.
Oh my goodness. All right. We now have online classes. So majority of our students are home. Do you believe online bullying is going, or better yet, still going on? And how can we put a stop to this?
So I think that there's probably, I would say, less incidences of bullying online at this time. I don't think that it's not happening, but it's because of the socialization. People aren't able to socialize as much as they were before, and kids aren't in school, so they don't have the ability to actually focus in on one person or on a group of people, so it's not the same. So I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it probably does, because people can post what they want, and kids these days don't understand that when you post things, it's just as bad as having said it in person, and that it doesn't go away. And so online right now is probably not as severe. But I will say that I believe that there are a lot of kids who, in this virtual time, are appreciating the potential of being home and not being in school and experiencing the bullying. So, because that's what they were experiencing when they were there. So to be home and away from those bullies or the peer pressures or those things is probably actually a good thing during this virtual time.
Yes, there are good things about being homeschooled at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that some kids are like probably feel like the weight of the world is off of them, because they don't have to be picked on. They don't have to be, for something that they wear or the way that they talk or the way that their hair looks or any of those things, because they're in their own space. Now, I'm not saying that bullying doesn't take place at home, because bullying can not just be with peers. Parents can bully kids too. And
Right.
even recognize that that's a thing as well. So bullying can happen in multiple forms. So there are some who still experience bullying in some way, shape, or form. But there are some who were in school and it was really bad. And we may have saved more lives than not than we even realize with having this virtual opportunity, because kids aren't able to emotionally regulate as much with having this experience of bullying all the time. And so that's why there's this big this big increase of childhood suicide, because kids aren't able to emotionally regulate and just kind of handle the daily of the bullying incidences. So, like I said, the virtual piece, has pros and cons, and I do believe that in some ways, for some kids, it's probably been really good for them to not have to experience that.
Yes. And that's the thing. I think being home, I like the idea of being home because that takes us back to home base.
Yeah, I mean, and for some it works, and then for some it doesn't, because home base is also safe space, and
Yeah.
so safe space sometimes kind of does something different to your mental health. To be in a safe space and have to have it as a structured environment, so it actually could cause the opposite effects for some.
Yeah.
So it's like each child may be individual. It is individual, and it may be different, and things affect them differently. So some kids are thriving, some kids are doing well, and then there's some kids who are not. So it's just it's a catch-22.
So it's a win-win, lose-lose situation.
Right.
Wow. Okay. You work as a school counselor. So how you have dealt with different characteristics? How did you balance all those stories and emotion from them?
I kind of I didn't it kind of broke up. I'm not sure exactly what the question was.
Okay. You work as a school counselor. So you have dealt with different characteristics. How do you balance all those stories and emotion from each one of them? As a counselor, how do you work that? How do you deal with each child? Or, sometimes you're a counselor, so you get like 3 children coming to you, 4 students coming to you for the day. How do you balance that?
Well, and I do the best that I can, because with even kids coming in, I give everybody their individual attention, their individual whatever you need. I believe, like I said before, that people require different things. So there is no one rule book to working with one student or not. So sometimes, of course, absolutely, it can be a lot. It's taking on a lot of information, but it's also what I signed up for, and knowing that I need to be sometimes what other people need me to be. And so my kids, when they come in, they probably can attest to that, many of them, because they still try to keep in touch with me, that I am who they need and what they need in the moment. And I do the best of that. But I also, for balancing, try to do as best as I can to have some self-care for myself, which is important as well. So, making sure that I take care of me and my mental health is just as important as taking care of other people's mental health, because, in order for me to show up for them, I have to be able to show up for me. So, of course, I'm not perfect with it, but I'm definitely working on practicing continuously what I preach, and making sure that everybody is in a good space, and that's them and me. So, but, I love, the time and working with my older kids and younger kids, because I've had the opportunity of working with ages 3 all the way to, like I said, high school level. So I've had an opportunity to work with all age groups.
Wow. And that must be such a treat.
It is. And it's good even when they come back and they say, Miss Hope, look what I've accomplished, or look what I've done, or thank you so much for being there for me. And that was not, and it didn't, I tell people I became a counselor, and the counselor that I am, because it's in me. It's who I am. It's what I have to offer. And it's not, the book knowledge enhances who I am and where my spirit is and what I want to offer. But this natural helper, it just comes from me. And so when I give to my kids, to my clients, to anybody, it's because of the piece of me that I want to be able to be a helper, and provide what people need and be of a support to people as well.
Right. Oh my goodness. So let's touch on mental health. This is a topic our Black community run away from. Why do you believe this is such a runaway topic, and what can we do to bring this issue up front?
I think as far as the mental health goes in the Black community, a lot of the issue is, back in the day, a lot of people didn't believe in counseling. And the saying of what happens in my house stays in my house has been indoctrinated in us for lots of years. And so you don't talk about things outside the house. So we deal within. And it's also, when things are happening or things are going on, it's known as being attention-seeking behavior. So it's not taken as serious as it actually is, because we just see it as, they just acting like that. Or, the old uncle who stays in the room and who doesn't go anywhere and keeps the lights out. That's just the quote unquote norm. That's how Uncle so-and-so is. Right. When in reality, that was probably some type of mental health, something happening.
Yes.
But because we built these norms, as time progresses, we follow those norms. We follow what we see as natural and what comes natural to us. And so we then continue to adopt this idea that counseling means, something is wrong with you, or you're crazy. So we have to decrease the stigma that's connected with it. And instead of having, the focus on quote unquote mental illness, but focus more on mental wellness and what counseling can do to support you and get you to a mentally well place. That doesn't mean that the diagnosis goes away. That doesn't mean that, but it means that now I know how to deal with it, how to cope with it. And so that we can learn in our communities how to deal with those family members who are going through this and who are having these diagnoses. if we start to normalize the idea of taking care of our mental health and understanding how our mental health is just as important as our physical health. You know, we will go to the doctor very quickly for a cut. Some people won't, but we will go for a cut, for a bruise, for a kick, for a smack, for some of those. We will go for, you know, if we fall and break something, but we don't connect to the fact that when we're having issues here, it's just as significant as having a cut that we see that bleeds. And see that bleeds, because there's an internal bleed that's happening lots of time with mental health that people can't see. And so it's very important that people understand that those bleeding, the bleeding is the same. Even though you can't see it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So the fact that you will go to a doctor for what we see in the physical sense means that you should go for what you see in the mental sense. And again, it doesn't mean that you're crazy or something is totally wrong with you or whatever. You know, it's a non-judgmental place to go and kind of get some support and have somebody to help you to work through these things and these questions and these thoughts that you may not even want to ask anybody because you're not sure what they mean. So I think in the Black community, we just have to take a chance on us. You know, it's about stepping out and deciding that I want the help I need from me because I recognize something is happening with me. So that's what I think when it comes to our community.
And that's well said. Well said, because as you mentioned, we are not owning up to things. We're not owning up to things. So we oftentimes say, be your authentic self, but yet we're not owning up to ourselves. We're not owning up to the issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And absolutely. We see it. We just don't deal with it the same way. But that's, again, because that's what we've been bred to believe, that we don't have to deal with it. But then when it manifests in ways that we can't control, which again, it shows up in our families, when we isolate people, when we say this person is, you know, just get over it. You know, we have these things and you know, again, the church is a very supportive place to go, but you can have God and you can have Jesus and you can have a therapist. So being able to recognize that I can have multiple things to help me get to my right space. And like I said, that's the same thing as a doctor. When you go to the doctor, you may have high blood pressure, you may have diabetes, but so you're seeing an endocrinologist, you're seeing your primary care doctor. So you are putting those things together and you're still trusting that, you know, God is going to work you through and help you through. So it's adopting the same mindset all around, all over, to have the same thought process that I have to take care of me. Totally. So again, my head is connected to my body, and if my mental isn't right, then that means I'm not physically right. And understand that mental health actually can manifest physically. So that stomach ache that you're having all the time could very well be anxiety. Those headaches could very well be anxiety. Like, there are things that can physically feel like something's physically wrong with me because I'm not dealing with what's mentally going on, or that I've repressed, or that I've, you know, that I'm sitting on because I don't want to tell anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. And so we hold it and so it's inside of us, and we only got one body. And if we keep stuffing everything and dealing because this is what we think we need to do because I'm quote unquote not crazy and don't want to tell anybody my business, then I'm myself in the process.
And then that's the thing, you know, we say like, oh, we're not telling our business. What happens here stays here in this house. While outside world is saying, no.
That, and the other piece with that whole story, that what happens in this house stays in this house, we have to be careful with that, because with kids, you're teaching kids to keep secrets sometimes. And we definitely don't want to do that either, you know, and not always should kids, of course, tell everything that's happening, but we are teaching them that about secret keeping. So we have to talk about those things too, the effects of what the power of words and how they, again, manifest in our psyche and what it means to us to have those experiences.
And that is, oh my God, you know, we're facing a very difficult time. We're facing a very, very difficult time. And as a counselor, we're going through a lot right now. What words do you have for the viewers?
Take care of yourself, you know, and don't let what other people think, or what you think people will think, or what you think they will feel about you, to dictate what you do for you, because people will see, everybody is not also equipped to speak into your life and to speak what you should do next about things. So people can also sometimes only give you what they have. And so I can only give you advice based off of my experience sometimes. And that's what sometimes we go to friends and we go to family, and they can very well give us some not so good advice, but they're speaking to you from their experience, not from an expertise. So knowing those things, you might want to reach out and get the support that you need. And there's all types of ways to pay for counseling. There's pro bono counseling. People do it for free. People do it on sliding scales. Insurance pays it. You got EAPs at your job. So you have all these ways to actually connect to someone if you need the support. It's about taking steps, opening yourself up to the journey of healing. And that's really what getting mental health support is about. It's about healing and wanting to be your authentic self, but in a healed frame of mind.
Absolutely. So I see you have 2 books out.
Yes.
Can you address those 2 books that you have out there? And let us know how you came up with those titles.
Okay. So my first book, on the advertisement, the cover is different because I'm actually relaunching my first book. But it's with a different cover. I just decided, I came up with something, and sometimes, I'm a spiritual person. So when God leads me and he said it's time you to do something, then, you just got to do that. And so I have another book cover coming for the book. But the first book was entitled, Am I a Bully? And again, it came from, when I was a high school counselor, I also wrote the policy, the bullying policy at my school. So I've done a lot of work behind the scenes on it. And I also sit back and watch when bullying is happening. And sometimes I recognize that people don't know that they're bullying, and especially on the elementary, even sometimes middle school level. They make this assumption that back in the day when you used to hit people, smack people, and do all that to talk about, for bullying, that's what bullying is. So they're feeling like I'm not a bully. Like I don't, and so if me and my friends are picking on one person, that doesn't mean we're a bully. It's just funny. But they needed to understand that when first of all, when that other person doesn't think it's funny, that's an issue. When that person is at a disadvantage, that's also an issue. And so when you make fun of someone and you put pressure in some type of way on someone that they don't think is funny, then you need to understand that you're doing something wrong and you need to be held accountable for that. And so the first book was basically speaking about that, to understand what type of things are bullying, and then also asking yourself, what role do you play? And so as a discussion for parents with their kids, what role does your kid play in the bullying process? Is your kid part of it? Is your kid an upstander? And what is an upstander? Somebody who steps in and says, this won't happen on my watch, or this isn't okay, or I'm not going to let this happen, and, so on and so on. That's what an upstander do. They stand up to what's happening. Or are you a bystander? Do you sit back and watch this take place and do nothing to support, to help, to talk to somebody? You don't have to step in, tell a teacher, or doing things like that. What role do you play? So the goal is to have people to explore what role they play in bullying as well. So that's where the first book came about. And so that people can really take the time to talk to their kids, to read these books in school so kids can have a discussion. Because sometimes even discussions about bullying are, kind of done over, like, real quick, like this is what bullying is, and then it's kind of a week of bullying. We talk about it and then we over it. But I like to go deeper. I like to know that kids understand that their behaviors are contributors to a bullying incident. So, that's, of course, that was the first one, which then led to the second book. And the second book came about because in the last couple of years, we have had a significant increase in childhood suicide because of incidences of bullying. And so, I felt like I needed to write a book about it so that people would kind of get the gist of and what it feels like and the significance of being bullied. So I wrote, this second book is basically a kid who was in school and he recognized that his a peer passed away, and it may have been suicide. And then he's wondering if he played a part because he was bullying him with his friends. And so in that, he went to his parents and he felt so bad. And see, you have to understand it, the power of words, and that sometimes you can't take your words back. And so since you can't take your words back, he doesn't have an opportunity to say he's sorry. So his parents had him to write a letter. And so that's what happens here. He writes a letter to his peer about his contribution to the bullying, and that he didn't recognize that it was hurting him to an extent like it was. So that's pretty much what that one is. And there's a discussion page in the back of this book as well, so that you can kind of say, what did this book make you feel like, thinking about the fact that you could be contributing to someone else's, and not saying it's not your fault, that it's your fault that someone can't emotionally regulate. However, what you got to take responsibility for your contribution to making someone feel bad. And so it kind of asks those questions. And have you ever experienced bullying, and to what extent, and what role did you play? Would you do anything different if you could? And that's kind of the gist of the second book.
And where can they purchase those books?
They can purchase, I'll put it in the chat. They can purchase the books on Amazon, or they can purchase the books on my website, which I'll also put on there. And so that I'll make sure that I put them in the chat as well. Because it's I have a website that they can purchase them as well on there. And there is a third book coming, so look out for that. That's on the rise at this point as well.
Congratulations. And again, if your third book is coming, know that your seat is reserved right here on the question. So when your third book arrives, I will say, welcome again. Welcome back home.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
This is home. This is home. This is not even a fan base. This is home. So once you are on this show, you will always be family.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I look forward to hearing about the third book. And viewers, if you have a child out there that is being bullied, that you are being bullied yourself, please speak up. Because as you can hear right here, those are the things that require counseling. They require counseling, and those are the things that contribute to mental health. And mental health is something that we are not addressing, but it stems from somewhere. Mm-hmm. It stems from somewhere. It stems from you being in kindergarten and somebody's picking on you. It stems from you being in high school, middle school, elementary school, and somebody's picking on you. And guess what? We grew up with the same kind of trauma. We grew up with the same mentality. And as we become adults, we are dealing with mental health, and yet we refuse to address it.
Absolutely.
Contributing factors are stemming from childhood. We go into relationship and we are dealing with mental health. And we can't go into a relationship because we are dealing with mental health. And these are issues coming from childhood trauma. But here you have it, Hope. She is a counselor that's telling you these are stuff that are real. They're real stuff, and we have to learn to address real things. If you have a pimple, you're addressing it, right? If your hair is not right, you're addressing it. If your clothes is not right, you're addressing it. If your makeup is not right, you're addressing it. Why is it that we are failing to address what is going on in our mind?
Absolutely.
It starts here. And when we learn to address what's going on in our mind, we will become more authentic. But we have a camouflage. Because we put on the little camouflage thing and we hide all that we are dealing with. And we smile, but yet the hidden tears of that struggle is there because we are afraid of what people are going to say. We tend to come into this space where other people's opinion of us dictate who we are. But it's now time for us to step out of that. Step out of that and build up that confidence, build up that strength, build up that courage, and said, I'm finding me. Let me find me. So viewers, if you are facing mental health, it's stemming from somewhere.
Absolutely.
And if you're facing bullying, we need to address it. Hope, where can they reach you? Because I know somewhere along the line, somebody needs to get in touch with you because counseling is so needed.
Absolutely. So I do have my website that I actually included, arrayofhopecounselingservices.com. That's my website. And so people can go to that website if they have any questions or anything and they, want to reach me, you can send messages there. There's also, and I forgot to mention that there's a t-shirt
line. By all means, have the platform for you. Listen, let me give Hope the platform to spill the beans and let you know what is what. Go ahead, Hope.
Now, I forgot to mention that there's also a t-shirt line connected to the bullying series for adults and children, and I included my website and on there. So there says basically, I'm an upstander. I'm not a bully. I don't tolerate bullying. That's for adults and kids. And so you can go onto the website and look at the books and look at the t-shirts. You can buy them in bundles. You can connect them. And I really do encourage, adults to support because the kids have to see that adults are not, and they support not having, not being a bully and decreasing the incidences of bullying. So like I said, there are adults and there are children children t-shirts along with the books on the website that you can access at any time as well, because we really want people to really see how significant bullying is. And schools are about to start back soon, and kids will be in the same place and will run up against some of the same things. So I would, I encourage people to talk to your kids, talk to your students. And if you're a teacher, I don't want you to, one thing I hate for people to say or dislike people to say to kids is just ignore it, or it's not that bad, or just move your seat. Those are not things that remedy the pain that goes along with being bullied. So I really caution people to use those words when it comes to bullying. There really needs to be an action taking place. And it doesn't mean the person who is the bully doesn't need some support as well. So I'm not saying that it always has to be punitive, but it definitely has to be researched and checked in. And even so that the person who is the bully understands that they are a bully and that they know what it means. And so that we're doing a lot of education on it so that we can decrease the incidences as opposed to brushing them off and saying kids need tougher skin and things like that.
Yeah. Can you throw in some activities that we can play with to get our mind at a place, especially at this time, like something to distract us, I guess, from what we are facing right now?
So it depends on, individually, there's so many things that could be needed for individual people, but there's mindfulness, and people can actually, and none of this is in place of me saying that somebody should, check in and see a therapist, because you still should, but right. There's mindfulness techniques that help you with being calm and learning to, being mindful, like while you're at work and taking a moment and kind of getting into your own space and focusing out of everything. There are grounding techniques that you can do to help to decrease and lower the feelings of anxiety that come along. There are a lot of self-talk, thought stopping, things that people can do. But so there are a variety of things that people can use. But I would say I wouldn't give 100% of, this is what you should do, because blanket it for everyone, because everything doesn't work for everyone. And severity of my issues may not be the severity of yours. So what I'm giving you may work for some and may not work for others, but it's definitely worth checking in with someone to see if you can get the support that's needed so that you can, like you said, practice self-care. It is important to practice self-care. How do you take care of you? If you don't take care of you, how are you taking care of everyone else? Absolutely. And so you can't pour from an empty cup. So all of those things are things to take into account when you think about just your mental health in general, and checking in with yourself, seeing what's going on with you, journal writing, sometimes taking a step away from everybody, taking a step away from social media. All of those things are things that could be helpful just to kind of recenter yourself.
Viewers, Hope, thank you. Viewers, here you have it. And this is an episode that we will remember. Of course, all the episodes we can remember. But I want to thank Hope for coming and sharing these topics with us. So we have 3 authors here tonight, and the final author is going to sugarcoat all that was just said. And she